we've always all agreed that this was nothing short of a tragedy. She's never denied or disputed that she killed Hannah. Never been any dispute either, but it seems to be falling on the wayside that Chloe also stabbed herself in the neck 5 times and once in the chest to try to kill herself based on her mental illness. From the very beginning, this case has always been about Chloe's mental state at the time of the crime. That's it. It has always been about a young 17-year-old, then 20, naive individual with pre-existing mental health issues, involved in an abusive, both physically, mentally, by a man more than twice her age. It has always been about years of abuse, coercive control, and living in this cult mentality that only exacerbated these mental illness. It is clear from the evidence that came before this court by both the state and the defense that clearly showed that Ms. Driver was suffering from severe mental illness at the time of the crime, that she suffered from the delusions that overwhelmed her and told her repeatedly for months that she needed to kill herself. There has been a documented history of mental illness in her teenage years and prior to the incident that occurred. We also heard about eyewitness testimony from individuals that were with her and experienced her during this time about her conditions and her subsequent deterioration, and that she had been asking for help and communicating this to those immediately around her because she was just getting worse and worse. During the trial, it may not have appeared at first glance to the court or to the jury that this case was about Hannah. It's always been about Hannah. We never disputed what happened with Hannah. But the only issue we were here to decide was to talk about Chloe's mental health. She's always acknowledged that what her actions were, but it is also about Chloe. As Your Honor is aware, I have been involved in this case since the day that Chloe was discharged from the hospital. I met her on December 22nd of 2020 in the book-in area of the jail on suicide watch in a turtle suit in a room where I had to speak to her through a mail slot. She had nothing in her room. She had but a mat and a styrofoam cup for water. At that time, she was still suffering from her severe self-inflicted injuries, still suffering from her ongoing psychotic episodes, and grieving over the death of her daughter. Over the last 4 years, I have had the opportunity to watch Chloe not only battle her mental health demons and try to grieve and properly observe everything that had happened, but I've also noticed that she has also grown up and matured. I have watched Chloe grieve for 4 years over the loss of her child at her own hands, but also endure the loss of her own family, physically and emotionally, both her mom and dad, and any of the life that she had before December the 8th. There has never been a time since I've been involved in this case that Chloe has ever said, "I am not responsible for what happened," or any attempt to deflect that. This case has always been about mental health and her mental state leading up to the event. It has never been about blaming anyone else for Hannah's death, but simply an explanation to how Chloe got to this point. It has always been about seeking justice for Hannah and for Chloe, asking the state to take all of this into consideration in resolving this case. As Your Honor is aware, we worked extensively with the state for years in an attempt to work out this case based on the facts and the circumstances and the extent of the mental health issues. And also, in an attempt to explain exactly what Chloe, along with other individuals, have in a relationship with Mr. Ben Michael. We ask for consideration of those very facts and not to treat Chloe just as any other criminal defendant charged with a crime. That was what we were asking of the state. Ms. Driver sat down with the state, provided substantial amount of information in an interview to the state in an attempt to explain everything that had happened to her. This past Sunday was exactly 4 years from the incident. Monday was exactly 4 years to the date that her parents found out what happened to their daughter and granddaughter. Mr. and Mrs. Driver had originally indicated that they wanted to speak on behalf of their daughter today. But every year at this time, the events of what happened on December 8th of 2020 hits them especially hard. They do support their daughter. Ms. Driver came to trial and indicated what she observed and what she felt. So we don't want to twist court to feel because they are not here today that they don't care, they don't support her. This is just an especially hard set of scenario and facts, but also around the time of the anniversary of the incident. There has not been a single day that goes by where Chloe does not think about Hannah, that she does not regret what she did, and would do anything to go back to that time and change everything. There's not a day where Chloe doesn't think about how this affected the very people she loved, and especially Hannah, the one person she knows she was supposed to protect. There is not a day that goes by where she does not wonder what her daughter would be like now at the age of 5, or what her life would look like if she had managed to get away from this cult and treat her mental health issues, which is what her parents had begged her to do. Chloe is, and always has been, remorseful for her actions. She takes responsibility for her actions and has had 4 years to be able to see and have insight now that she is medicated and diagnosed and away from that relationship. We are asking this court to consider everything we presented at trial and the hearings leading up to trial. We are asking this court to recognize, as the jurors did, that this was never a case in which Chloe did this crime to have Benjamin to herself. It has never been a case about selfishness or anything else like that with respect to the relationship. This case was always about being a severely mentally ill woman with significant trauma that fought and fought against her own mind until she was no longer able to do so. We heard testimony from all the experts and the witnesses about her deterioration in the months leading up to this. We heard about her behavior and the delusions from those who interacted with her during that time. This was never a situation where she was feigning or faking mental illness. 3 experts told us that. Witnesses told us that. There were evidence that she was experiencing these overwhelming psychotic symptoms and delusional compulsions, and that this was something that she fought every day and was very real. There was significant evidence that showed she acted in ways that showed she was losing her mind. She communicated that to the people who supposedly loved her. We all remember the testimony of Jason Spillers. We all remember his testimony about her behavior. We also know he told us how much she loved Hannah and that she would never have done anything to harm Hannah in her right mind. We are asking this court to remember the witnesses that told us how much Chloe loved her child and did everything she could to be a good mother and take care of her daughter, all while struggling with the undiagnosed and untreated mental health issues, all while struggling with emotional and physical abuse at the hands of Benjamin and Michael, and being subjected to this cult indoctrination that alienated her sense of being, her sense of self-worth, and any semblance of independence. importantly, it alienated her from those who genuinely loved her and who loved Hannah, her parents. Her parents were the only ones in this whole scenario that didn't view Chloe or Hannah as property. All of this combined led up to what happened on December the 8th, 2020. I'm not going to rehash everything that this court and the jury heard in this case about the 3 different experts, but all 3 experts throughout the pendency of this case have all told us about the significant depths of Chloe's mental illness. All of which agree that she suffers from very significant, severe mental illness. All of these diagnoses require significant treatment, not just medication. All of the experts told us that these illnesses require actual treatment and medication, and they just don't go away. As Your Honor is well aware, that Chloe has been incarcerated since her release from Kennestone Hospital. She was 20 years old at the time. She is now 24. Since the beginning of incarceration, she has not received any type of mental health treatment aside from medication regimens, which is constantly in flux and changing, even to this day. She has absolutely no criminal history whatsoever. We are asking the court to recognize, based on her age and lack of history, that there is opportunity for her to not only deal with these mental health issues, to become a better person and serve her sentence and still be a productive member of society, all at the same time in justice for Hannah. We are asking this court to sentence her to life with the possibility of parole. Chloe intends to utilize her time in custody in the Department of Corrections to continue her religious exploration, her education or vocational or college training, and better herself. She intends to continue to assess what she needs for mental health purposes and is going to continue to take medication so that she doesn't fall back into her previous ways. When I first met Chloe, all she wanted to do was die. She continued to express severe concerns that she would still try to actively harm herself and that she didn't want to live anymore. 4 years later, every day is still a challenge while on medication, but it is something that she is facing head on. She understands that she doesn't need to take those desperate actions, but there are reasons for her to live, and those reasons include being there for him. As Your Honor is aware, life with the possibility of parole requires her to serve 30 years of a minimum in custody prior to being considered for parole. At that point in time, she will be approximately 50 years old, and potentially without the physical presence of her parents due to their age. It is something that Chloe is cognizant of, but also understands the importance of accepting her punishment. She has always said that she has no issue with whatever happens, and she will respect the decision of the court. And she understands that there needs to be a punishment for what happened. She regrets this every day. She may not outwardly express it on phone calls, chirps, text messages. But over the last 4 years, there have been hundreds of phone calls, hundreds of text messages, hundreds of visits with myself and Mr. Kessler, all of which Chloe discusses what happened and is remorseful, is upset, is crying. Your Honor saw Chloe during trial, during the issues of Hannah, and during testimony. You saw her reaction to it today. She is remorseful. She is not without remorse and upset about what happened. She beats herself up about it every single day. She tries to talk with her parents about Hannah in a positive light to keep her memory alive, and wonders what would happen if she had just done something different. Justice for Hannah in this case includes a sentence of life with the possibility of parole. takes into consideration all the things the court needs to consider in terms of rehabilitation, punishment, and deterrence. She can be treated, well, likely with only medication in the Department of Corrections, but there are other opportunities for her to avail herself, to rehabilitate herself. And we are asking the court to give her that chance. And we are asking that you sentence her to life with the possibility of parole.
I'll let the state argue, and then I'll hear from the driver.
All right, thank you.